brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you more choices with pre-owned cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, savings, and financing options, and top dollar for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with 11 new car brands and over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. And we're proud to support our local schools and community. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier car dealer, locally and family owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
This September 27th and 28th, enjoy Virginia's finest wines at the Smith Mountain Lake Wine Festival, once again hosted at Bernard's Landing. Stroll the expansive lawn. Sample wines from over 30 local vineyards. Visit gourmet food trucks and artisan vendors, all with the lake as your beautiful backdrop. Bring your chairs and your 10x10 tents and set up for the entire day of music and fun. For more information and tickets, visit smlwinefestival.com.
Hey there, fellow travelers. It's me, the Hotel Whiz. Before you go anywhere, call me day or night for hotel rates too low to publish. I'll save you up to 75% on over 500,000 hotels across the globe. You see, I've already done the research, so you don't have to spend time online trying to find the best deal. That's up to 75% off. Just call me, the Hotel Whiz. It's a free call, and you get instant access to rates too low to publish with no cancellation fees.
Make a free call now and save up to 75% off your hotel rooms the next time you're going somewhere for business or pleasure. Call the Hotel Whiz now and get instant access to rates too low to publish. 800-378-2714. 800-378-2714. 800-378-2714. Call the Hotel Whiz right now for rates too low to publish. 800-378-2714.
NFL fans, tune in to VTRN Sports on 93.3 FM, 1320 AM, or on the VTRN Sports app for a full week of football action. Starting Thursday with Dolphins at Bills. Then a triple header on Sunday. It's Eagles versus Rams, Cowboys at Bears, and Giants at Chiefs. Monday, it's the Lions at the Ravens. VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. The games play here on 93.3 FM, 1320 AM, everywhere on the VTRN Sports app, and tell your smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM, Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So I understand the people out there that sit there and believe that there's a sector of Liberty University where it's always sunshine and rainbows. And the past is a big influencer in that, and I would say justifiably so. But I would also say there's a large sector of Liberty Flames people that are rather blunt in their self-assessment, and in a way that if you don't like the school, you should appreciate it because it's self-critical. And I know that may be hard for some people to believe. Oh my goodness, breaking news in the fast lane. Again, to get my usher on for a second here in the fast lane because I haven't done this just yet. I need to get a soundbite for breaking news. I haven't figured one out, but maybe one day I'll find one that's, kind of dun, dun, dun. And we don't need to cut and paste that one, TJ. Although if you really want to make fun of me or Trey Lyle wants to in the morning warm up, 7 to 8 a.m. right here on VTRN Sports powered by ESPN, it's there for the taking now. But let's get to the reality of what happened at Bowling Green before we discuss the TrostLaw.com fast take that was dropped earlier today, which does paint the picture of, I'm not guaranteeing a full turning of the corner, but at least a pathway to doing that. The press release after that Liberty Bowling Green game, which you should have been able to see because you were listening to Georgia at Tennessee on the VTRN Sports app, as good sports, of course, and maybe you were on your way back from Charlottesville like I was when Virginia dismantled William & Mary, which we'll get to tomorrow as we will get into the weeds on the Virginia Cavaliers as much as we can for a 2-1 team with victories against Coastal and William and Mary that are kind of meh by comparison. But here's how the release stated after Liberty's 23-13 loss at Bowling Green over the weekend. First sentence. You know, we're dissecting these press releases kind of like yesterday with the transition of leadership, my favorite phrase at Virginia Tech. The press release for Liberty started off with a season-high total of penalties and turnovers by Liberty allowed Bowling Green to secure a 23-13 victory over the Flames Saturday evening. Now, first of all, I get it. Some people will go, wow, we're not giving credit to Bowling Green. But I would say this much. I think it's a memo that nobody at Liberty, at least in the football operation side, is hiding from the reality that their 1-2 start, to an extent, is deservedly crediting other teams for executing better than Liberty has. They have not made mistakes. Jacksonville State the week before, Bowling Green this past week. And the Flames are doing that. And that's football 101, heck, sports 101. If you just don't make mistakes and your opponent makes a lot of them, you can win games just by that formula. Again, breaking news sound effect needs to come to the fast lane in some form or fashion. But the press release from Liberty added this. And, I mean, we could read off all the stats if we want, but these are the important ones. Remember, this is Liberty University, where a lot of these press releases at every school, Liberty, Tech, UVA, Carolina, Florida State, Miami, Ohio State, Michigan, whomever. All of them are almost more of a sunshine and rainbows. And literally, Liberty started off with a season-high total of penalties and turnovers by Liberty allowed Bowling Green to secure a 23-13 victory over the Flames Saturday evening. And it continued. Liberty committed 4 turnovers in the game, including 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions, which led to 10 points for the Falcons. I mean, call a spade a spade. 10-point margin, 10 points for the Falcons. There's a clear delineation of the difference in the game. The press release added, the Flames also committed 6 penalties, including 2 of which would nullify touchdown plays. So we'll pause for a second right there. I understand that there's a segment of the Liberty Flames fan base that is disgruntled with those penalties and how they were ruled by the officiating crew at Bowling Green. Listening to the Bowling Green announcers, because yes, I flipped over from the VTR and Sports app so that I could listen to some of this game on the way back from Charlottesville. Getting my usher on again and confessing and asking for forgiveness for my potential sins.
Forgiveness is more than saying sorry.
And that being this, even the Bowling Green announcers, in some cases, were amazed at the penalties that were called by the officials. Sometimes they were very much in agreement with them, even if Liberty fans might not have been. So take this with a bit of salt. But the point of the matter is, if you're in Liberty's position, so much of getting better starts with this old saying, TJ, I'm sure you've heard it in sports. Control the controllables. Have you heard that before?
Control the controllables?
Yes. Control what you can control.
Yeah, I've heard it paraphrased that way. I haven't heard control the controllables, but control what you can control.
It's the same thing. And a lot of this for Liberty in essence. And again, first of all, just looking at that performance and what Liberty failed to do. A lot of that starts with what you can control. Okay, bad officiating, let's call a spade a spade. There were times for that. But when you're 1-2 and you're not playing your most crisp ball, I use this analogy as somebody who's trying to get better at tennis.
Yeah.
It's not where running is for me. Join me, Star City Half Marathon and 10K the Saturday before Thanksgiving over in Roanoke. Specials, 65% off. The list price at InsaneRadioDeals.com for those entries now through the end of the day on Thursday, along with other great deals, including, by the way, Liberty Flames tickets, which include those season tickets for JMU and other games going on in the remainder of the season. But for Liberty in this spot, when things aren't going well, you have to take it upon yourself to flip the momentum. And a lot of that starts with not making mistakes. When it rains, it pours. Those 50-50 calls, when you're doing well, a lot of them do go in your way. But when they're not, you have to control what you can control. And Jamie Chadwell, this is the path to where Liberty has a chance. I'm not saying they're going to beat JMU outright this weekend. I might be tipping my hand for when TJ gives his projections on Friday as far as the 9.5-point spread, or even if it comes down back to 7 where it opened. It has moved 2.5 points in favor of JMU. Why I'm tipping it for Liberty? Because a lot of their issues are controllable mistakes. They can clean those up. I'm not saying it's going to guarantee a win. JMU looks like the better team right now. I have more confidence in either quarterback, although I don't like the 2 QB system, and maybe this is the spot where it backfires on Bob Chesney, outthinking yourself. But JMU, the lines have played better. The quarterback play has been better. They've not made self-inflicted mistakes. Their late collapse against Louisville came to a team that most people believe is a top 25 caliber team out of a Power 4 conference. So keep that in mind. But Jamie Chadwell mentioned this. The officiating that has a lot of people up in arms. Yeah, there's some bad calls, but a lot of this also starts with learning how to overcome that.
We got to be better at overcoming them. I think that's if you go back and look, anytime that we've had some type of penalty that's taken away a big play, we've ended up either missing a kick or not scoring at all. So the last 2 weeks, we've had 21 points taken off the board, and then we missed 2 field goals that were makeable field goals. That's 27 points. How much did we get beat by the last 2 weeks?
Less than that combined.
20, yeah. So if you just think about those things, and so there's an emphasis each week. We're gonna do something a little different this week to make sure that that we're harping on those things that are keeping us from having a chance to be successful.
Doing something different. Pressed, but Jamie Chadwell did not elaborate on what Liberty's doing different. But a lot of this is the fact that for the Flames, first of all, it's easy to control things that you can do and get better. But some of this also does boil down to the demeanor of the team. And I know we're reading body language here, and we're amateur psychologists and did not stay at a chain hotel restaurant last night, which qualifies us to count ourselves on that. Google, by the way, I'll tell you in the break because I'm petulant and won't mention the name of the Holiday Inn Express chain. Oh, whoops, I just did that in the fast lane.
Whoa.
Wow, yeah, exactly. I got to fall on the sword. Trey's going to have a field day with that tomorrow in the morning warm-up. Go ahead. Enjoy that from 7 to 8 a.m. right here on VTR and Sports, powered by ESPN. But if you Google those ads, you'll get what I'm talking about. We're not expert psychologists here for Liberty.
No.
But last year's team was largely fit with players who wish they were in C.J. Daniels' shoes. The guy who transferred the wide receiver from Liberty to LSU, now finally getting playing time and shining very well down at the U, down in Miami. ACC leaders, at least by many people's estimation, and the betting odds to win the ACC. Early in play, they've got Florida State this weekend, so a lot can change as the top 2 teams, arguably, in the ACC will square off far from South Beach, but still technically at Miami. For Liberty, a lot of players, I think, last year wish they were in that category, and they were not, and the attitude was there. This year, I don't think they're as talented as they've been in prior years, and at some point, that does have to be taken into consideration. But at some point also, if you're making mistakes, and you have the desire to clean them up, it's a positive. Because Jamie Chadwell mentioned this as well today, that there's got to be a level at some point of personal pride, not just in the coaches to clean this up and to coach better, but also in the players. And I'm okay with this when you're talking about a rev share era and an NIL era with players.
At the end of the day, there's got to be a personal pride as well. Like, hey, I can't do this to our team. I got to make sure that I'm not being lazy in practice, or I'm not being lazy in the game. Anytime you get penalties, it's because you stop moving your feet in football. Football's all about moving your feet. And anytime that we've gotten a penalty, it's because we've stopped moving our feet. And when you move your feet, you reach and you grab and you do things. And so those are things that we've got to do a better job of. And it's not because they're trying not to make a mistake. They're fighting. They're spending extra time, but we got to clean those things up because easily we could be where we'd like to be, if we don't have those things. But we're going through them right now, and that's part of our journey right now, trying to figure it out.
Jamie Chadwell mentioning personal pride. So the natural follow-up question, and yes, had to press him on this one, is does he believe this Flames team, this 2025 version, has a level of personal pride that will turn it around? And, this was not a hot take, unlike last year where I would have thrown that little jab in. I've learned something from, trying to be married for over a decade and other people offering advice. Don't just throw in the jabs of the past if you can avoid it. And, to get my usher on, I really have to work at that. But I'm proud of myself for not doing that today at the media availability session. But I had to ask the question, if you're talking about needing to have personal pride, does Jamie Chadwell believe this year's team that they have personal pride?
Oh, I think they have a lot. They want to do well, and I think there's a frustration with that. There's a disappointment because they put a lot of time into it. They want to represent themselves. They want to represent this university in a high manner, and they know that we're not doing that to the level that we're capable of. They know they're better than what we've shown, and I think that's where it's one thing if you go out and you play with somebody beats you, we can live with that all day long. We can live with that. But when you know you've not you've left things on the table, so to speak, and beat yourself in certain ways, that's where the frustration happens. And the guys are frustrated on that because it's something they can see visibly. Know, man, if I'd just done this happens. And so there's a lot of personal pride.
Frustration is not a bad thing. And I'm not saying you want players cursing, although I'm not naive enough to not believe that in highly competitive environments and situations, even at a religiously based school like Liberty, words are going to come out that would make, we'll use Pastor Kennedy with Impact Church, or the associate pastor there, but they're a proud partner of Jefferson Forest Cavalier football, so we'll use him as an example. That in competitive settings, that it's understood that while that's not the best language to use, and while you can work on your faith to try to not say that, in highly competitive settings, sometimes those things can come out. But you also want a level of care and pride versus apathy in these spots. Like, I'd still rather have to learn and help people understand how to properly rein it in. Again, to get my usher on for a second in the fast lane, that's kind of me. I've had to learn to try to rein it in, and I would definitely have still got many a slip up when it comes to that. But a lot of that is true. And granted, keep in mind for Liberty that the players they're going to present to the media are likely to be players that are viewed as leaders. Ethan Vasco's been more consistent since he's been named the starting quarterback at Liberty. Maybe it's by design, despite his struggles, that Liberty's behind him, and they want to make sure that message is sent by Vasco being made available to the media. But they've also sent other players in front of the media, win or loss, to clarify that. And Vasco himself spoke with the media about cleaning up mistakes. And again, it may sound like, this is not enough venom and teeth to it, and time will tell whether that's the case. But he's not wrong about a lot of Liberty's issues is they are close if they can clean up those mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard to even say that we're struggling when we put up all these yards every game. I think we had more yards than our opponent each week that we've lost, and we're right there. I mean, it's penalties. It's things that we can fix. I mean, things at practice that we can do. We got to fix the holding calls. We got to fix just our mental mistakes that we've had. I mean, we had 2 touchdowns called back, some trip to the red zone against Jacksonville State where we get down to the 3-yard line. We can't punch it in. I mean, it's just things that we can fix. I mean, we move the ball really well, but we just make these mental errors, and we're going to get them fixed this week, and that's what we're really focusing on.
So that's Ethan Vasco talking about the mistakes that they made and a lot of it being on Liberty to clean up. I don't think that's wrong or incorrect. In fact, I'll go a step further. Again, getting my usher on in the fast lane, or reminding people that not fully listening to the VTR and Sports app when we carried our college football triple header this past Saturday, that I did flip over to the Bowling Green call to hear what they were saying. And they were even mentioning, and I forget who the color analyst is. I really should know that, but again, I don't. Sorry, they never announced it. They didn't do a good enough of a job resetting who the broadcast team is in the hour that I was listening. So it would have been nice to know. But alas, that was not there. They were crediting Liberty's offense and mentioning that schematically, Liberty was absolutely dominating Bowling Green in terms of getting open, running well-designed plays on the ground, and pass plays that got Liberty open, and that Liberty was controlling the other side of the ball. It was a 3-0 game at halftime, TJ. It's not like Liberty was down 17-0 because their offense wasn't doing much, but their defense was kind of letting off the gas. This was basically the defense largely carried the way. And even though they struggled to stop Kelly, the running back that's at Jack State, that's going to certainly be transferring up at the end of the season. Just, not breaking news on this. When you're a top running back in Conference USA, someone's probably going to ID you and offer you a little bit more money. But when you're in Liberty's spot, like, am I wrong? Like, did you grasp the same concept when you were settling in to Blacksburg, getting ready for Brent Pry's final game, that, oh my goodness, Liberty, they're putting themselves in the right spot, but they're literally just failing to execute?
Oh, no, absolutely. I felt like it was just mistakes that could have been avoidable. And Ethan Vasco, for example, made plenty of those, I felt like, in the game. And you've got to also remember they had 2 touchdowns called back that really hurt the momentum in there. I never felt like Liberty was out of this game. I just think they carried themselves out of this game.
I think it's reasonable to say that. Is Liberty pulled themselves out? I mean, again, total yards, they've led all of their opponents this season, and yet they're 1-2.
Yeah.
Penalties and turnovers literally have doomed them for the Flames. But the one reason where, again, I'm going to curse for a second in the fast lane. If you're a Flames fan, there's hope that you can get this thing turned around. And I'm not saying that they're going to beat JMU this weekend. If they play like this, they're going to get routed at home. Even if they clean it up, they might not. I'm going to tip my hand for a second. My projection is that Liberty will clean it up, but I'm skeptical it's going to be enough to win. To cover as a 9.5-point underdog, I absolutely see a path to that. 7 or higher, I would take Liberty in this spot. And I think that's what it's going to stay at by the time we make our picks Friday. So I'm probably going to have Liberty plus the points. But it's hard to go from making all these mistakes and losing to cleaning them all up and winning. It's not impossible. Flames play better at home. That part is also factored into the equation. But JMU could easily doom themselves with this 2-quarterback system, which is reasonable. But again, a lot of this goes back to the attitude the Flames have this year compared to prior years. And Damon Harbin, who has been at Oklahoma before, was at, where was he before? A&T for a moment. Cup of Tea. By the way, he won the band competition of Oklahoma, A&T, and Liberty. A&T's got the best band out of the three, if you're asking me to rate. But this is what Damon Harmon said today, the defensive back for Liberty, about the not quit attitude, which when you factor that in with Vasco and with Jamie Chadwell and the way the Flames have played hard despite making bad, boneheaded mistakes, they're not stupid mistakes in the sense of,
are you that dumb?
They're in the sense of they're trying hard, but not necessarily in the right position, which is why you combine that with this comment from Damon Harmon, and I think there's a path for Liberty.
It's kind of like not really different for me. I don't really like to keep talking about my past, but my freshman year we went 11-2, and then my sophomore year we went 6-6 or 6-7. So like I've been on both sides of the stick, like the winning side and then losing side. But like the difference here is we haven't quit. Like we're not gonna quit, and I know that for a fact. Like I got Ethan sitting beside me now. Like I played him in high school. You know what I'm saying? I know he's a dog. He's not gonna let the offense quit. I'm not gonna let the defense quit. We're gonna keep on going. We're gonna fight to the end, to every game, say 0-0-0. And hopefully, like I said, we just get back in the win column. Once we get there, we stay there.
So keep in mind when Liberty put Damon Harmon in front of the media or Ethan Vasco, like they're not going to put guys in front of the media that think are going to represent the program in a poor manner. This is not open locker room like in the NFL where you're going to get a lot different voices. So let's take that with a grain of salt and understand that here in the fast lane. But also, I do believe that when you factor in Harmon and Ethan Vasco at quarterback, that at the most important leadership positions, there seems to be that level of Christmas. Again, I don't know if Vasco's enough fire and brimstone to really maybe give the pep talk and the kick in the backside that he and his offensive teammates need. Maybe he's not wanting to because he's made mistakes himself. And again, it's harder to do that and ask that out of other people when you're making those same mistakes yourself. But there is a path to just cleaning that up. And it doesn't mean Liberty's going to beat JMU, but there is an easy path for them to cover the 9.5-point spread that JMU is favored by this coming weekend. When we return to the fast lane, what he said and what he meant. Plus, a little bit of feedback that's come on maybe the Fast Five at 5-ish today. We might table that till tomorrow because some of it's about Virginia, some of it's about other stuff, but a lot to get to. And then John Manson from AseaofRed.com around 5:45 today will weigh in on all of this here in the fast lane, VTR and Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTR in Sports.
The Drive into Fall sales event is on at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford. Looking for financing as low as 0%? It's yours when you drive home in a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee with 3-row seating, or choose a brand new 2025 Ram 1500 and get 0% financing for 72 months. Huge savings are here at the Drive into Fall sales event at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford, 1750 Independence Boulevard, MagicCityBedford.com. Through credits and dealer for details. Hence 9/30/25.
Relaxing in a radiant sunroom, enjoying the breeze in a screen room, or the sun on the deck. No matter the weather, customize how you feel whenever you want. Call Collins Custom Builders. All sunrooms, screen rooms, and decks are built by Collins employees, many with decades of experience, and some who've been with Collins Custom Builders since 1989. That means workers who embrace accountability and are committed to crafting your vision of the perfect sunroom, screen room, or deck. See some of their projects at collinscustombuilders.com, then call Collins Custom Builders.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
Looking for that one place to find out information you want that used to be in the morning paper? How about trying the LynchburgPortal.com? On-demand news from Bill Trefiro. On-demand weather daily from VTRN in-house staff meteorologist Matt Ferguson. classic hits from the 70s, 80s, and 90s on the Rewind 1039 stream. The best talk shows and CBS News every 30 minutes on the WIQO and WGNN streams. The best play-by-play and the Fast Lane with Ed Lane on the VTRN Sports WVGM stream. A business directory from the Lynchburg Business Alliance. Up-to-date events from the Lynchburg Tourism Site. Great discounts from InsaneRadioDeals.com and many more ideas on how to promote your business. And it can all be found on the LynchburgPortal.com. That's the LynchburgPortal.com.
After the long road trip to Mount Airy, Jefferson Forest Cavaliers football, presented by Trostwall.com, returns to Bedford County as JF begins Seminole District play at the Liberty Minutemen. Your Central VA floor and kickoff show starts at 6:30 this Friday, September 19th. Join us on the Virginia's Talk Station app, 100.9 FM Lynchburg, 95.5 FM Bedford, and Open Virginia Talk Radio Network on your smart speaker. JF Football is also presented by Apple Auto Glass, Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Bedford, Clyde Smith Plumbing, Impact Church, and the Concrete Wizard.
Hi, I'm Zach Mackey, the voice of Virginia Tech men's basketball. Catch the Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle weekdays 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM and the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I'm laughing because I got to get my usher on as we come back in the Fast Lane, TJ. I was thinking about the soundbite we're about to play, and it finally hit me. You know, great preparation work that I do here in the Fast Lane. You know, it's like people are like, how do you prep? It's like I'm always prepping, but clearly not well enough because I just realized this soundbite we're about to play might need a little refresher.
The best place to find true insight is in a press conference.
He cares about the players. We've got a true veteran who's been in this game a long time. He really wanted this opportunity.
It's not a media scrum.
They found a way to persevere through it. They didn't get down. They didn't start pointing fingers. They all looked at themselves in the mirror and said, hey, we're going to figure out what it takes. The least important thing in a game is to score at halftime, right?
It's listening to the Fast Lane dissect what's really being said by your favorite players, coaches, and administrators.
In the 40-minute game, no one cares. You got to be able to execute on both ends of the floor. Man, they play hard for 40 minutes.
It's time for what he or she said and what he or she meant.
So they met with the media today. Obviously not Brent Pry, but his replacement, Philip Montgomery, interim replacement, and the athletic director, although maybe not for long, Whit Babcock. And they spoke about different things with Virginia Tech. So that's the key element to this. There's a coaching search that's going to be conducted behind the scenes while Philip Montgomery is the interim head coach. The reality is something's going to have to change for Virginia Tech football. They're 0-3. They had looked like they quit on Brent Pry Saturday night and giving up 3 drives of 88-plus yards that resulted in Monarch touchdowns and a 21-0 lead that would be 28-0 at halftime, and fans booing before leaving before the fourth quarter basically got underway. Is that a reasonable account? You were there in person, TJ?
It definitely felt like they gave up. The players told us that, no, we did not give up, and no, y'all need to let off of Brent Pry, but it felt like they had given up.
You know, it's what you see versus what they say.
Yeah.
You know, that's a clear, watch what I say, not what I did type moment. Mocking the do as I say, not as I do moment. So Philip Montgomery met with the media today and mentioned changes that need to be taking place. And a lot of this is behind the scenes, and I get it, especially when you hear our colleagues from TechSideline.com, Chris Coleman, who's mentioned that, there would be media availabilities. Pry and company would be late. They would be late for the start time of practice. This is just a level of crispness that has to happen with the program. And I wonder if that's what Phil Montgomery said, but didn't actually say.
I think it's just the approach of how we practice, what we do, the tempo in which we want to do that, maybe changing up some different days and how we approach stuff. Those are the things internally that we're looking at. I've kind of got a feel for what I like to do from a practice schedule standpoint. We're going to start implementing that. I hadn't even got to talk to the players about that part of it yet. So as we kind of get into it, they'll see some of those changes. They'll feel some of those changes. And I think they will embrace that just like they've embraced a lot of different challenges.
That's Philip Montgomery when he met with the media. And the little picture part is what he said, and what he meant is what he said was what we played. What he meant is something's got to change, and it has to start with being more crisp at Virginia Tech. Now, I don't know if that's going to be enough to overcome the offensive line injuries and the lack of development that's taken place there, or the fact that on the defensive side of the ball, for a defensive expert like Brent Pry, it almost felt like he took the Penn State approach, which has largely been, this is my impression of James Franklin at Penn State. And maybe this is a flaw of Whit Babcock's hiring someone from Penn State. But the Penn State approach largely seems to have been beating bad teams where they just have more talent and they roll it out with a simple game plan. But every time they've run into bigger, better programs, now they haven't always gotten blown out. But Oregon in the Big Ten title game last year, which you heard on VTR in Sports app, as well as Ohio State multiple times, Michigan, especially when Jim Harbaugh was there. Laugh about the cheating scandals all you want. It's that when they run into those type of teams with comparable talent, but better X's and O's, they're just totally overwhelmed and at a disadvantage. And that kind of lines up with what Virginia Tech saw with Brent Pry, which is they could get wins against, until the quitting at the end, they could get wins against teams which were less talented than they were. But the moment the talent was similar, the lack of coaching acumen from Brent Pry reared its head, and the lack of preparation and those little things that add up that make a lot of good coaches where the talent may be the same or the talent is a little bit less. They overcome that. Think Brent Key at Georgia Tech as an example. So that's one thing that's worth noting. The other is the man who hired it is Whit Babcock, and he spoke with the media today as well. And a couple different notes. One is he thanked the board members, but there's a value of reading into this, which we are doing right now, and what he said and what he meant.
I want to thank Dr. Sands, Amy Sebring and her team on campus, Brandon Hall, Ryan McCarthy, and Jay Pearson for the work they have put into a proposed plan to be reviewed by the board in the coming weeks, resulting from the presentation they received during the board retreat last month. Due to that timing, the work ongoing, and respecting the chain of command, I will not address any questions today after my remarks. That announcement will and should come from the president and board when appropriate.
That announcement will and should come from the president and the board when appropriate.
They told him to keep quiet.
Did he? Exactly. Is that not what you're reading about this? That Whit Babcock is basically saying, I'm being paid to assist with this process. Yeah. I'm probably going to be out at some point in time, but they're going to keep compensating me. So I'm going to do my job right now. Take the money, take the loss of pride, take the checks, take the loss of pride. But I'm going to keep doing this. But I'm going to go ahead and let you know that I'm not making this decision. So I'm not going to answer questions. Part of it is I don't have the answers to the questions.
Yeah. No, and he made it seem like more of a honor and respect thing towards the board, but it's clear he doesn't know where this is going to land because they're not telling him anything.
No, he may be involved in the search, and Chris Coleman has documented this very well on the TSL podcast and techsideline.com and our friends over there. But about the ability to read through the BS meter of who's leaking what in a coaching search and be able to read potential candidates when you start to vet them and maybe even engage in those initial conversations by flying to a neutral place near a school, but not quite there. Hugh Free, Charlottesville. Other situations like that may have popped up. He's very good at reading that. But he's made two bad hires, and he's basically saying the board and president have removed his authority to do that. So when you're trying to figure out, as Melissa McCarthy would remind us, who just so happens to have
lots of power,
the answer is Whit Babcock. And if he tries to actually make the hire as opposed to just consult, it will be rejected. Meanwhile, we've gotten some feedback on this as well as some of our other comments that are kind of relative to this. So it is time to get to some fan feedback about this right now here in the Fast Lane.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. Trey Lyle VT and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, it's time for fan feedback in the Fastlane.
So Stanford Steve, we're making fun of Stanford Steve, who is the more prominent personality from College Game Day and ESPN. But Stanford Steve, the real deal, of course, has chimed in about Virginia Tech struggles, and to an extent, Virginia's inability, although they're 2-1 and having seen them in person, I have different opinions that we discussed yesterday and we'll get into later in the Fast Lane about how Virginia actually, I think, looks different than Virginia Tech, but certainly than anything we've seen at Virginia in recent memory. But Stanford Stieg adds, I don't think the state schools will be able to compete with the big boys now. And NIL and transfer portal have changed the game so much, but I still think state schools could become more competitive than they are. I'll pump the brakes a little bit. I think both schools can. I think Virginia Tech has not done a good enough job administratively, connecting with their donors and fans and conveying the importance of ditching this mindset of, oh, you moved my parking spot because I need to give more money. I'm mad at you. And conveying the idea that that's part of the game and you have to be playing this game more than ever. So you're going to more than ever reward people who are making financial contributions. I don't think Virginia Tech's quite done a good job of that. And I'll actually flip it and say, having seen Virginia in person over the weekend, I think Virginia is starting to do that. There's certain things they can do better. The attendance at Scott Stadium at 66,000 has still not properly been mobilized. And I know the idea of Virginia's not a football school or they don't really buy into Tony Elliott. But there's certain things you can do. We'd be delighted to help at the Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com. But Stanford Stieg, to add on and finish off what he said, an analogy is that when a little guy challenges the bully might win, but the little guy can still give him a bloody nose. That's what we need to see, theoretically speaking, out of state schools. Stanford Stieg wrapped it up by saying this. What is disappointing is the current UVA and Tech coaches can't seem to even do what they've done. We obviously know Tech's made a change, but Stanford Stieg adds, you do get glimmers of hope. Or let me rephrase that. You do get glimmers of hope. For example, I love the new UVA quarterback, but the team is lacking in so many other areas. I'll go a step further. I think Virginia's defense is reasonably able to be criticized. I don't think you can gain a lot by their defensive performance against William and Mary over the weekend. But offensively, and having seen them up close in person, and I know William and Mary look smaller, but Virginia, they looked bigger and more athletic. I'm still amazed at what I saw Saturday at Scott Stadium. That's like 73 hours later. And I'm still amazed at what Virginia put out. Do I have questions about the coaching staff and their ability to win against equally talented teams that are on the schedule? Georgia Tech, Florida State, Louisville, and others. No doubt about it. I think that's fair and reasonable based upon their history and lack of results. But the money's there for Virginia. I had a guy at church that bumped into me, and he was talking about how this guy's in the legal consultancy field. And he's talking about how back in the 80s, he worked with the University of Virginia, and they had a multi-billion-dollar endowment. And keep in mind, that's back then. Inflation's going to push that number higher and higher. And yes, again, a lot of it's earmarked not for athletics, but it's shown that there is the potential for donation, and Virginia has a wide swath of that. And they are starting to deploy it. Basketball got more resources this offseason with the coaching change, but also with their roster. Football clearly did. I understand rev share is going to change things a bit, but Virginia is giving off that impression of when you're thinking conference realignment, there will be a place for Virginia because they're not only a large state school, but they're very financially well positioned that they want to dive in full bore. It's kind of like North Carolina. The results haven't really been there in football at all. And in basketball, they've been inconsistent relative to what they should have been. But the meat is there on the bone to be harvested off of that. Shannon chimed in, and Carl, by the way, with differing points on the Virginia Cavaliers. Carl gets first dibs because he disagrees with us. Ed, no offense, but I don't care how much money UVA has. Until they do something on the field for more than 1 year, it's an anomaly. Lacrosse, baseball, soccer, tennis, notwithstanding. I think it's a reasonable comparison, comment for Carl. For football in particular, basketball, the model is there that you can win a championship. Granted, it's under the old era. Tony Bennett admitted it. He admitted that's a big part of the reason why he left, and it's why I don't think he'll ever get back into coaching. Of the Boeheim, Roy, Coach K, Jay Wright, I think Tony Bennett is the least likely out of that bunch to get back in. Oh, gosh, yeah. And that's crazy because Roy Williams and Coach K don't have to. They're in their 70s, and say there's Jim Boeheim.
Yeah.
Jay Wright, maybe if it all settles down and they're paid employees and it's easy, perhaps. But honestly, I think none of them are. But out of that bunch, Tony Bennett, because the morality side of things, I think it's just a principle play for him. He's certainly not at the highest level. But I think Carl brings up a fair point. But the flip side is these rosters can flip and turn so often. 2 years ago, Florida State, double-digit win season, almost wins the ACC, and they win the ACC, but they've got an injury at quarterback. They don't go to the college football playoff. The next year, they're a disaster at 2-10, and then this year, it's flipped right back around, and they're a top 25 team. Flip-flop, 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 like the Office quote that came out of there. That's kind of what it feels like for Virginia and just the nature of college sports. So that's my brushback on Carl's comment is, yes, I want to see it more often for Virginia, but the idea of consecutive years, that's less likely to occur because you're just going to see more ebbs and flows year over year with the dynamics and the volatility of rosters.
No, I agree. I think, though, the resources there for UVA, I would say there's more resources for UVA than Virginia Tech. And I would say, as far as resources between UVA and Liberty go, I think it's up there because of how rich of a school Liberty is and how much they're willing to put into athletics.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Liberty, from a group of five standpoint, it's them, Boise, Memphis, and USF are the four that are the most well financially positioned.
Oh, we know Memphis is loaded. They paid $300 million to try to go to the Big 12.
Yeah, well, and yeah, kind of speaks to itself. And then the military schools obviously could because they have government funding, but they have a different academic standard to which they're going to subscribe: Air Force, Army, and Navy. So that stringent academic requirement changes things. But yes, to your point. Meanwhile, to wrap it up on this, we've gotten some feedback on Liberty. We'll actually get to that later in the week. Sorry, Michael, but we'll get to that later in the week. But Shannon chimed in on the UVA concept. He flips it around. I've actually been giving you credit when speaking with other people, and you're the only one who has said this situation could happen where Virginia all of a sudden flips past Virginia Tech. UVA FSU in a few weeks is an early ACC Game of the Year candidate and a good barometer for Virginia. So thank you for that, Shannon. Always appreciated, but glad you see it. That, you know, the reason I've been trumpeting it is the resources are there. There's just got to be some kind of organizational structure at Virginia that's willing to dive in, and it looks like they have. And basketball is going to tell a different story this year. All these people are like, you know, oh my gosh, I couldn't stand watching Tony Bennett. Look, first of all, I loved it. I still love it. I still appreciate the fact that it worked to develop players for the NBA. The long line of Tony Bennett players that had sustained NBA careers: Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter, Trey Murphy III, among others. There's a reason for that list. But you can still win a different way, and it's going to look a lot different this year for Virginia basketball. Meanwhile, we have time for basketball season later. We also have time for John Manson from AseaofRed.com. Sorry for the Fast Five at 5-ish. We'll touch Hillcats tomorrow, hopefully recapping a Carolina League championship. We'll see if that happens. You're more in-depth than that. I'm just, kind of rooting for the city of Lynchburg. You actually work for the Hillcats, so you have even more of a rooting interest, TJ.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll be able to recap it with Luke tomorrow in the Fast Lane, and you'll be able to keep people updated at TJ_Wilkerson8 before you host the Fast Lane on Friday. Yes. But when we return in the Fast Lane, back to the Liberty Flames, John Manson from AseaofRed.com joins us on the VTRN Sports app and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
It's so worth the drive to big savings at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Shop local and save more with exceptional service and selection. Your search stops here with over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, plus a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia: Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you more choices with pre-owned cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, savings, and financing options, and top dollar for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with 11 new car brands and over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. And we're proud to support our local schools and community. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier car dealer, locally and family-owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
You've heard how easy it is to get life insurance on the radio and internet. But what they don't say is you may not be getting the very best rate. If you've been needing to buy life insurance, why not buy it from your JF sponsor, Andy Matthews, located right here in Lynchburg? You'll get the truth about buying life insurance, and you will have an agent who can discuss options that are right for your family. Contact Andy Matthews, a licensed Erie family life agent. With over 33 years of experience, Andy Matthews is your go-to agent for life insurance.
Warm weather means traveling. Hi, I'm Randy Trost from Trost Law with a couple of safety reminders. Always wear your seatbelt. Don't drive distracted or impaired. And remember, it's better to safely arrive a little later than being in an auto accident. Those things can make a big difference between a fun family trip or a painful alternative. At Trost Law, I hope you never need our services, but if you do, we're here to help you at 777-HURT or trostlaw.com.
In most things, it's hard to go from ordinary to extraordinary. It's easy with your home or business. Call the Concrete Wizard and transform your place into an extraordinary space. If you're tired of looking at unsightly concrete, then bring light to your old surfaces. Call the Concrete Wizard for free design consultations, free estimates, and fast professional concrete resurfacing. And visit theconcretewizard.com for ideas from other before and after photos.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us. Build with experience. Build with quality. Build with Right Choice.
Want to save money for feeling old? There's only one place you can pull that off. InsaneRadioDeals.com. In honor of Kmart's Blue Light Special, which began in 1965, RIP to Kmart. Head to InsaneRadioDeals.com now to get 65% off the list price of select items. That includes Star City Half Marathon and 10K entries, plus other great items. Just enter the promo code BLUELIGHT at checkout now through Thursday to get 65% off the list price of select items at InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Hey, this is Virginia Tech analyst and former Hokies tight end Mike Burnham. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Because I know they value my opinion, I really do commend the way the Liberty Flames just jumped on things after that loss on Saturday at Bowling Green. And then the press release just being as emphatic about the fact that it was the season high in turnovers and penalties that led to that victory by Bowling Green over Liberty. And I don't think that's Todd Wetmore and the staff at Liberty throwing shade on Bowling Green as much as it is the fact that, there's a standard to which the Flames themselves hold themselves internally, and they're not afraid to bring that out publicly. And they were more emphatic about that today. And I don't think this is a lack of effort from the Flames. Let's be clear about that. It's more about the lack of execution and ultimately the lack of practice execution, which, as the saying goes, practice execution becomes game reality. And the Flames also talking about how they need to fine-tune those things in practice this week to eliminate the penalties and turnovers against JMU. Now, does John Manson from AseaofRed.com disagree with me? This is where he gets to weigh in here in the Fast Lane. John, great to be speaking with you as always. Am I on point that there seems to be a real desire for Liberty, not just the coaches, but the player buy-in as well, to have some pride and clean these things up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely what you heard from them today in their press conference and their media availability. And it's what you've heard all the way back since training camp started. It's one thing to say the right things. It's another thing to go out and do it. It as a parent, Ed, do as I say, not as I do. But you got to go out and execute. And this is, repeated weeks, certainly 2 straight games and the losses at Jack State and at Bowling Green, where Liberty didn't do that. They did not execute. They hurt themselves and basically cost themselves an opportunity to win each of those games. Games where, they outgained both the Gamecocks and the Falcons in total yards, but that's not what matters. That's not what puts W's in the win column. It's the points. And Coach Chadwell talked about it today where there's 3 touchdowns and 2 missed field goals taken off the board. And that's, 27 points in those 2 games combined. And Liberty lost those 2 games by a combined 20 points. So if you clean up those things, you execute and take care of the little things, the fundamentals of football, Liberty could be 3-0 right now. And, if you do that moving forward, they still have a chance to have a good season. And it can start Saturday against James Madison.
It can. And by the way, those tickets are part of the ticket availability with the 65% off special now through the end of the day on Thursday at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Shameless plug. You can also get those at CFRed.com club memberships at InsaneRadioDeals.com to go along with those tickets to make it a complete Liberty Flames fan experience, thanks to our friends in-house at InsaneRadioDeals.com. John, we'll look at the JMU matchup in greater depth in just a moment. But one point that we made on our TroStlaw.com Fast Take earlier today, which is there's a reason for, I'm not saying Liberty's going to beat JMU, but to believe that they can easily keep it within the 9.5, which is where the point spread is now. And I know Richie Longshots is your guy, and the Sea of Red podcast tonight is when he'll shed more on this. But I see a path easily for Liberty to being able to cover, just because if they clean up their mistakes, they're a team that is more than equipped to at least be in the game with JMU, especially at home in what's going to be a raucous environment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am curious to see exactly how the environment looks and how much the fan base, the season ticket holders, if you will stay locked in and come on out to the game and not let those tickets make their way to people clad in purple. But yeah, I definitely think Liberty can make this a game. They can win the game. I think going back into the preseason, or even 2 weeks ago, you would have said this game's close to a toss-up, and maybe JMU is a slight favorite. I don't think anything that James Madison has done has necessarily changed, our thoughts on that being the case. We'll have to see. That their defense looks really good, and it'll be difficult for Liberty to put up a ton of points, especially if they have some of the repeated mistakes we've seen and we've talked about. But then, with their offense, rotating quarterbacks, how effective will that be? And will that be their game plan? That's something I'm curious to see, is will they continue to rotate their two quarterbacks like we saw going back 2 weeks ago now, and in their loss at Louisville? Can they take advantage of a Liberty defense that has definitely shown some susceptibility to the run game, which is probably James Madison's strength right now on their offensive side of the ball, and or can Liberty shore that up and continue to see positive regression there as far as what they did against Bowling Green and really what they did most of the game at Jack State until the second half, when the defense had been on the field a long time and started racking up some plays, snaps that they've been on the field and time they've been on the field, and maybe wore down a little bit in the second half. So I think the biggest key for the Flames Saturday is to get off to a good start. I mean, they're going on 17 straight games where they've had a deficit at some point in the game, and a lot of that has lasted into the late into the second half and even to the fourth quarter over this past year and a half. And that's something we need to see Liberty. If you're a Liberty fan and supporter, you need to see the Flames take advantage early of good opportunities that's presented to them, whether they are able to force some turnovers for James Madison or take advantage of that crowd early and get a lead and play from ahead. And that can help your team play confidently coming off of two straight losses, and then also have your fan base and your crowd stay behind you and supportive and loud and make it a tough place for JMU to play.
John, there are a couple of chicken and egg scenarios that we will bring up here in the Fast Lane, not to make you or those that might be listening at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, or at seaofred.com when the link gets posted there as well. We don't want to make them hungry, but we'll use some chicken and egg scenarios metaphorically here in the Fast Lane. One of them being, you mentioned the run defense for Liberty. Is it a grave concern, or is it largely a product of they're on the field longer than expected because offensive drives get cut short by turnovers or penalties, so they're accruing more time, and then over the back half of the game, they just naturally wear out?
I think right now, when you're going on, 2.5 years, 2+ years of data under this coaching staff, I think right now you have to kind of lean towards, Liberty being susceptible in the run game on defense. And we've seen flashes of them being good and improved in that area this year, but we've also seen flashes where that wasn't the case. Obviously the Jack State game where behind Cam Cook, they ran for over 300 yards, and it was a game that everybody in the stadium and everybody watching on TV and following along online knew Jack State wanted to run the ball, and Liberty still couldn't stop them. And that could, like I said, be due in part to just tired legs, and they've had some injuries throughout the game on the defensive side of the ball as well too. A few different defensive linemen went down to injury, but again, we heard from this coaching staff and the players throughout the training camp that they praise the depth of the defensive line. So I'm not sure we can blame it on injuries too much, but We also saw flashes, again in the Bowling Green for the large part of that game. The defense was much improved, and most of the yardage and points given up in that loss was due to the offense's turnovers and short fields that Bowling Green was able to take advantage of. And, but at the same time, the defense has to be blamed for that some too, because, the defense did not create any turnovers in that one either. So that's something that, I'm sure Coach Chadwell and his defensive staff would say they want to improve on and really need to do. I mean, Liberty, in addition to starting fast, they have to win the turnover battle. You can't lose the turnover battle against James Madison on your home field. A team, like you said, is a 9.5-point favorite and expect to beat them.
John Manson, he's at JC Manson on Twitter. They are at a Sea of Red or a seaofred.com if you want to check them out as well. John, looking at overall the Liberty matchup against JMU and where things can potentially get turned around, what is reasonable as far as an expectation of the Flames? You mentioned where they could turn things around, not just defensively, but on the offensive side of the ball. Is it the offensive line that is creating issues for Ethan Vasco? Is it he himself making poor decisions? Or is it a little bit of both that have resulted in the higher amount of offensive generated penalties and turnovers?
Another chicken egg question. I
Yes.
think you have to put most of the blame on the offensive line. I mean, Coach Chadwell was asked about that today, and he said, Liberty only played 5 offensive linemen in the Bowling Green game, the entire game. And that's not something, I'm not sure it's ever happened. If it has, it's been maybe 1 or 2 games here and there under Chadwell and Coach Bill Durkin, the offensive line coach. So that was unusual. And he said, they put out the 5 guys that they had the most faith and most confidence in, that they could get the job done. And still, Vasco got sacked 4 times in the first half alone and felt pressure at other times. And it was also the offensive line more times than not that was the ones, the guilty party as far as those penalties that took points off the board or prematurely ended drives and put the Flames behind the chains. So, definitely need some improvement there. And in addition, Vasco has to be better with the ball. He's the guy that has his hands on the ball, basically every play. And to have 6 turnovers in 2 games is just not good enough. And I know can't be blamed for all of those, but he's had, 3 interceptions and 1 fumble in those 2 games. And again, some of that could be due to the pressure that he was facing and trying to force the ball out quickly. And others were just bad reads and bad throws. And he's got to clean that up. And, for this offense to have sustained success throughout the season, but specifically Saturday against James Madison, and be able to, stay ahead of the chains. And like I said, try to play from ahead.
We will tease the projections that are coming on the A Sea of Red podcast, as well as at aseaofred.com this coming week for John Manson, and what to expect over this weekend's matchup for Liberty at JMU. But we'll look beyond the matchup. They've announced the extension of the games 2037 through 2040. Who knows how this is going to look or where we'll even be when that time comes. The apocalypse might have arrived by that point, so who knows? Yes, I interjected my own opinion. Sorry, but not really. And then, John, the fact that there's the Battle of the Blue Ridge, and they're terming it that as well, with a trophy that's being put together for it to be on the line for however this matchup goes. Am I reading into something, or is there something to the idea that Liberty and JMU may sense the benefit of working together in terms of alignment, not to mention the fact that it may be more difficult to schedule a lot of these power conference games anyway in the future, because a lot of those conferences are going to 9 games, making it so there are just fewer options out there?
Yeah, definitely. And especially, you even heard Coach Chadwell talk about it today in his press conferences. You're in a league like Conference USA where you have to make a trip out to Texas, El Paso, Texas, which is, basically on the border of Mexico and New Mexico, out there, way out west part of that state. And in addition, Louisiana Tech and Miami, Florida, which is a long trip. And, it's a lot of air flights, air mileage that the Flames are racking up. So anytime you can play a game, a series like the Flames have entered into with JMU, it's short bus ride for both teams. And same thing with ODU, that Liberty travels down to Norfolk next week, and another bus trip. So anytime you can have series like that, in-state competition, in-state rivalry, it's always fun. And I mean, just if you're listening out there and you like to partake in some social media, go out there and just look at some of the comments on my own posts. I'm sure yours as well, Ed, and the Liberty Football and JMU Football accounts. And I just follow some of those threads. It's a lot more activity and action on social media surrounding games like this than it is when, Liberty's playing at Bowling Green. No offense to Bowling Green. The fan bases just are separated by hundreds of miles as opposed to just a few dozen. Where, a lot of the alumni are working together, or neighbors, or see each other around town, driving around on the streets with their bumper stickers on and things like that. So it's definitely a lot more fun for the fan base, and something I'm glad to see this series extended, for the next 15, 16 years. Like you said, who knows where we'll be when that time comes, but I think it's a great move for both schools.
You and me both. Look, I like the concept of it. If you're not going to get into a power conference, and who knows how that's even going to look when 2030 is the likely time that's going to arrive, the next best scenario is give us matchups that are going to get the juices flowing. And JMU and then after that ODU are two matchups which generally have sparked much more excitement as opposed to some of these, again, no offense to Liberty's other teams, but who they might have on their schedule. Meanwhile, hopefully no offense was made with John Manson. There's no need to, because the insight is great at aseaofred.com. Get those club memberships along with some Liberty Flames tickets at insaneradiodeals.com. And check out the A Sea of Red podcast as it drops Tuesday night. John, thank you for joining us today in the Fast Lane. Looking forward to the pod dropping tonight, and looking forward to seeing you over at Liberty University on Saturday for the game.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Ed, as always.
It's always our pleasure. John Manson from aseaofred.com with us in the Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you listen to podcasts and YouTube Live. As we appreciate you for joining us today in the Fast Lane on W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside. Now on to ESPN Radio programming in progress on VTR and Sports, powered by ESPN Radio.
That we got on the Atlanta Falcons defense, they're hungry, they're ready, they're vicious, they're physical, they're energized. Let's go! That Atlanta Falcons defense, baby, they are relentless. They are relentless. A lot of people, why they trading up, giving up their 2026 first round pick to go get James Pierce Jr. Like Little Richard